First question is, what is your position on cap and trade legislation?
Thanks, Tracy. And I trust that throughout the next hour we'll have plenty of opportunity to talk about some of the things that Bob referenced. But the question now is cap and trade. I guess I want to couch my response by giving a little bit of history. Most of us, not all of us, but most of us in this room are old enough to remember what it was like back in the early to mid-1970s. I was not an old man. I was not even a man at that time. I was still a child in about 8th grade, but have a very vivid memory and some fear as to what this meant. Lines at the pump, the gas shortage caused by OPEC's stranglehold on the supply of oil coming into this country. At that time, it was a slap in the face to this country, which woke us up to the dangers of our dependence upon Middle Eastern oil. For a very brief time, this country began to engage in alternative energy and energy security measures. But the moment that oil bottomed out in terms of price, and OPEC unloosed the purse strings of the oil, we abandoned everything. And we went on for about 20 years or so with no energy policy. And now we are paying dearly for it. We paid for it with 9/11, which can only be explained by our presence in the Middle East, which can only be explained by our quench for their oil. To make matters worse, we funded the hijackers indirectly by buying the oil from that region, and we're in the midst of 2 wars because of, at least in large part, our dependence upon the oil in the Middle East. We are now behind China, behind Europe when it comes to developing advanced energy technology. We have to make difficult decisions. Now is a time for this country to consider sacrifice. The longer we wait to address the energy crisis, the harder it will be to deal with. How do we do it? Cap and trade was one idea. It's a market-based system that incentivizes energy efficiency. There are other ways. There are carbon taxes. There are other types of methods that the government can employ to stimulate this new energy sector revolution. I remain very open-minded as to how we get there. We have to get there. And I think any strategy we employ on energy has to contain 3 essential components. Number 1, it has to be designed to enhance energy security. I think that means maximizing the energy resources we have here at home, our oil, our natural gas, our nuclear capacity, and of course our coal. By the way, this bill, the energy bill that the House voted on, devoted over $100 billion in coal. It's an unprecedented and historic investment. And it also drove the technology, which I'll get to in a second, that would ensure that someday the automobiles that drive on our highways are powered by the coal that we remove from southeastern Ohio. Energy security. Number 2, it's got to be designed to push the demand and advance the technology. That's what the bill I voted for did. It incentivized and disincentivized practices that will push the technology. You know, I use this analogy. For those of you, I'm sure some have heard it, and I apologize if I'm being redundant. What I'm holding in my hand right now is a droid. Droid is a cell phone. Many of you may have one or something like it. But it's not just a cell phone. It's a camera. That's going to go in my scrapbook. It is a video recorder. It is a means to get on the internet, something that we never even heard of 20 years ago. And it does all this and much more for about $100. It cost me $100 because I'm a preferred Verizon customer. Probably $160 if you're not. Think about that. My dad's here back in the back, and when I got out of law school back in 1986, we went into practice together. And we decided we were going to enter the computer era. So we bought our secretaries, essentially word processors, would be dinosaurs by today's standards, not even glorified word processors by today's standards. 3 computers, 1 dot matrix printer, $35,000. Now, how do we get from that to this in roughly, 25 years? We do it because demand drove the technology, which enhanced efficiency, reduced price, brought down the size, and we can do the same thing with energy. We can make solar panels and windmills that are much more efficient than they are today. We can figure out a way to process coal that's much more efficient. Nuclear power, much more efficient, if we stimulate the demand. If we let the market take care of itself, then we're destined for decades of dependence on Arab sheiks who mean to do us harm, in episodes like what's happening in the Gulf of Mexico right now. So that's number 2. We have to push the demand. And number 3, it has to create jobs. Think about this. Millions, not hundreds of thousands, millions of jobs can be created in America just in the window and door high efficiency sector. We can create tens of millions of jobs all around the country by enhancing energy conservation, weatherizing homes, building solar fields and panels. And for those of you who think that the whole concept of solar panels and solar energy is pie in the sky, you're wrong. Right now, as we speak, there are negotiations happening that, if they're successful, will result in the largest solar field in the United States being constructed right here in Ohio's 18th Congressional District. This is real, this is happening, and if it happens, and if we have anything to do with it, it's gone. This is going to lead us to more and more innovation. We're going to be filling some of these empty factories with manufacturers who build the tracking devices or the solar panels. It's exceptionally exciting, and that program is only happening because of what the state legislature did here in Ohio to create renewable portfolio standards. Sorry, Tracy, this is an issue that's I'm passionate about. Look, we have to have an energy policy. I remain open to suggestions. The only suggestion I'm not willing to accept is to have no policy at all.